Howdy folks, it is I, Chief Sarkhan, with another episode of Nuclear Epoch. Today I wanted to show you a quick base tour since I've now completed the game, give you some tips and tricks, some ideas that maybe will help in your playthrough. So let's just jump right in and see what we got here. So here we are at my base. I set up completely around the lake where the initial starter quest sends you to. So we'll just come down here and take a look. So when you start the game, they're going to come down and have you come down to this lake. So what I did is I set up my base basically on the lake because it's a nice big flat area. So here we have our bus stop. We have our first buildings, and they're orange because you can tell they've all been updated to max level. So I have my Technical Research Institute here. I have the forge here with Hank. I have the training center over here. And then I have your commercial center here. Then out here, I've got some hedges, which are end of the game shrubbery. And because it looked kind of cool, I made myself a swimming pool just for style. Over here on this side, you have your warehouse. This is where you store all your goods, and as you upgrade it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then here's some of all the trees. Basically, I have at my base at least one of everything that you can build in the game. So when you go into here, into your build menu, I'm going to showcase one of everything. So you can just kind of get a quick look at the things you're working towards in this, what I call a resource gathering progression game that happens to have some export from dungeons types play, but for the most part, you're just gathering resources and slowly progressing. Over here, I have my workshop, which has all the advanced benches. Storage, once you get up there, you start with the small storage and you work your way up to the big ones, including the racks. You got your armor racks here. So this is one type of armor. And if I was to take off my armor, you got the high tier heavy armor. Anyway, then your progressions on your forges, so on and so forth. And you also get a weapons rack that you can display weapons on, not just armor. Coming around, finishing the tour, this is the metal building that you get right at the end of the game. I went ahead and set this up to display all the different types of furniture you can get, including all the plants. So you have 3 different tiers of beds, a whole bunch of different types of plants, got a fireplace, some lights, some book stands, and these book stands and the cabinets are actually storage. So you can use them as an alternative to the chests. Coming upstairs, we got the high tier wardrobe, the comfy chair, the fancy bed, the different types of screens, so on and so forth. And then I got a little porch out here for just to overlook my farm, which brings us to the next part. I have a farm set up with automatic sprinklers and fertilizer for one plot for each type of plant available in the game that you will try and grow as part of the questing system and for feeding your dragons and your pigs. Which leads us to the husbandry section. You have your dragons here. This is your breeding pen. They've hatched an egg. Then you got the incubators for raising or hatching the eggs. Now, one note is you can have up to 3 regular dragon pens and then 3 advanced dragon pens. Same thing for the pigs. You can have 3 regular and 3 advanced. I don't think there's a need for it. I currently have 2 advanced, but I would planning on removing one of them if I did another advanced dragon hut, but it takes dungeon drops to make them, so this is kind of where I stopped. Anyway, so that's the base tour. We'll go over some quick tips and tricks for you if you're progressing your own game. There's settings you can play with. Storage stack size would probably be the number one I would concern myself with as you're progressing in the game. I have mine currently set to 5, so that lets you stack 500 ore instead of 100 per stack. If you leave it at the default setting, you get 100 ore per stack, which is kind of small. But you can also step it up or step it down as you progress the game. So my next tip is to focused harvest. When you first start the game, find out what you need for the quest and go harvest a bunch of it. So like if we look at the map here, you're starting here at the fluorescent lake. Coming down to the south is a ton of iron. Doing circles around the lake is a bunch of copper. Over here on the hillside is a bunch of stone. And then over on the north, you can get the plants and the trees. So you have everything right in this area you need to get your game started, which is why they kind of send you here. And then another thing to take note of with the map, and you get to see the whole map when you start. There's nothing hidden. You have these towns: Bitter Town, Echo Town, the Scrap District, and New Genesis. When you start the game, progress your quests with Irene, and Irene is this building, until you get the legendary backpack. Once you're done with Irene's quest to backpack, and you'll be building these other buildings as part of that, which they also give you quests. Then I strongly suggest you run to the Scrap District, which is right over here, and you do her quests until you get the weapons magazine unlocks, because she will give you, for running her quests, a full set of legendary magazines, which is a pretty good deal at early game. And you can run to those towns with just your pistol. Following the roads is fairly safe, and you can get to all these towns, and every one of these towns has an NPC that gives quests. And every one of those quests gives you resources. Another key thing of running into these towns when you first start is they have chests. There's also chests out in the world, and they always refill over time. So if you run to Bitter Town, loot all the chests, sell what you don't need, bring everything else back to get your base building started, you're going to start off with a whole bunch of loot. And you do that with all 4 towns, also doing their quests, you're going to stock up pretty quickly and have a pretty good start to unlock those new weapons and whatever. Now, the next tip I have for you is for the dungeons. Now, you're going to get quests to go into here to do your dungeons. You're going to unlock Temple first, and each one of these dungeons has their own merchant in it also. When you first start out and you only have Temple available, you're going to want to run Temple until you get 1 Mask of Wrath at least, which means even though the first time you escape Temple, you'll unlock the Land of Ice, I strongly suggest you don't immediately jump in there until you've got your Mask of Wrath. And at the same time, find that vendor that's in Temple and do his quests. Start doing his quests, because you're going to be coming to Temple a number of times, because the drop rate for that dungeon for the first tier is 15%. So you may get lucky and get it the first try. You may have to do it 20 times. Well, in doing those 20 times, you can get a whole bunch of those quests done, plus stock up on a whole bunch of resources. And then I would say for the first tier, keep doing that. So when you get to the ice, do the ice quests, and until you get the 0 degree tier. So just keep doing that. And then once you get to unlock tier 2, you'll be pretty far into the game. You're going to repeat the same action, but this time, when you complete the swamp, you'll unlock this entire row. When you finish one of these, you're going to unlock this whole row. You're not going to want to jump right to the end. You're going to want to do the temple until you get 2 of each of these. So I equate the number with the number of the items that they drop before you progress. So at Temple 1, you need at least 1 Mask of Wrath. At Temple 2, you need 2 Masks of Wrath and 2 Source of Zero Essences. And I'll show you this in my spreadsheet of why this is important for your progression. Because you don't want to make the mistake I did and keep having to go back and forth, changing gear. Because each one of these has their own requirements for your armor and weapons to go through. And it does a lot of swapping, a lot of crafting, so on and so forth. So if you go get 1, get 2 of each, and then when you get here, because the chance is 100%, you can just run tier 3s over and over again until you unlock, like I was saying, everything. Because a lot of these have build requirements as well as unlock requirements. So anyway, those are my major tips that I have for you. It's not a game to rush. Difficulty-wise, I would say my feedback there is play on whatever difficulty you feel is most appropriate. I played on the hardest difficulty possible for the tier 1 dungeons. Then I hit tier 2 dungeons, and it basically was near impossible because it seems to be tuned for group play. So if you're solo, you can play on the hardest difficulty as long as everybody on your team is ready for it. If you're playing solo, you may have to slowly tune it down until it feels like it's the right place for you based on your equipment and your playstyle. I like playing on the hardest difficulty, but it just didn't appear to be possible solo because of the number of mobs that spawn. So just word of advice, you can change your settings at any time. That does not affect you at all. So just play around with it, find out what's comfortable for you, and go from there and have fun. So with that, let's switch over here and let me show you my tracking of the game. And the reason why I say this is because there is, and why I say quests are so important is because there's over 220 of them. 221 to be a fact, is a fact. So every person, every store, every dungeon has a person. And that person has a series, and yes, series of quests. Sometimes you will get multiple quests from the same person, but they begin their own series. So like when you look at Irene, she'll give you a main quest and a side quest, or even a couple of side quests that you do, and you have to do them in sequence. So when you do the first one, so when you look at here, for example, Alchemy and Magic, you'll get an Alchemy Magic 1. Once you complete it, you'll get Alchemy Magic 2, and then 3, and so on. But you also could potentially get these other quests from everybody else. And you can see some of these quests go up to like Gunmaster 8. So it's important, and they give you lots of resources. So when you go over here, you can see you can get a lot of coins, silver coins from a lot of them, but you also get resources from the quests. Like I said, here you get legendary magazines for getting to this quest. And some of these quest items repeat. So you can get a legendary backpack from doing a series from multiple quest NPCs. Anyway, so there's lots of crafting involved. And the deeper you get into the chain, the more you'll need the higher resources. And this is why I call it a resource progression game, because the higher tier resources are needed for higher tier crafting. And as you can see, there's a lot of things to craft, a lot of things to make. The dungeons go in sequence. You start in Temple. Temple can be any element that hits you. They have a little bit of everything. So it's not as important to be focused on it. It's important to have a strong weapon and have your food and your chems to help heal you. Ice is focused on ice. Fire is focused on fire, thunder, and then swamp. And like I said, you progress through these in series, and there's a Temple 2, and so on and so forth. And then we can see that the drops, which are these, the boss rewards, are needed to unlock a lot. There's up to, some of them have 5 different things you have to unlock, which means you need 5 of those. So like foul gallbladder, you need 5 of them just to unlock everything. But then on top of that, you need another 2 to make items. But oh, by the way, since you can have up to 3 advanced dragon pins, if you want 3 dragon pins, you need 3 of all 4 of these. So it adds up. So there's lots of things you can see, like, I mean, just to make an advanced bed, that one I had upstairs, you need frost prayer reeds. First you got to unlock it, the bed, and then you got to make it with the drop from the boss. Anyway, and just to give you a taste of the unlockings, every building has its own series of unlocks, and like you can see here, these are all dungeon drops. So that's what's needed just to unlock these crafting stations, not just build them, because if you go back to the dungeon chart, you also have to have some to build the stations. So once you unlock it, you still got to get more dungeon boss drops to build. Anyway, so there you go. Just a quick video to kind of showcase the game. Go back into the game real quick. Give you another tour, a little bit, one more look around the base. Check out all the different trees. You can get really fancy with your design and whatever you want to do. These are like target dummies. Down here, I have, this is the compost bins to make the fertilizer, so on and so forth. So yeah, really enjoyed the game. It was pretty challenging in some respects, but also very simple. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, or want to see something else, let me know. I stream and play all kinds of games, so if you have a request, just put one in. I got to figure out what game I'm going to be playing next, and we will see you in the future right here on this channel. Thanks. Take care.